Hi everyone, my name is Akhilesh Srivastav and today I am going to show you how to build a micro frontends using Angular Elements. Angular Element is a great technology for building web components which can include all the superpower of Angular. So in this video, I will be building a complete web application by building its various parts of the screen using Angular Elements. In this video, I will be using this demo web page and converting the various parts of this web page into a web components using Angular Elements. So if you see here, if I go to the view source, this is a simple web page. So here you can see all the HTML and CSS is included in this. So I will be breaking these screens into various parts using Angular Elements to construct our full web application. So I have decided to split this web page into 5 small sub apps. So the header section will be contained in header app. In the middle section, we will be having 2 apps. The upper one will be known as main app and the below one will be known as sub app. The side section will be contained in a side app and the footer section will be contained in a footer app. So we will start by first creating an Angular workspace. So it's always advisable to create a workspace because we will be creating multiple Angular applications. So in order to avoid the duplicacy of node modules, it's always advisable to create a workspace. So in order to create a workspace, we need to give this following command. So here we will say ng new and the name of the workspace. So in my case, the name of my workspace is ng-akhil-workspace, and then we have to give this flag --create application equal to false. So this command will just create our application. This command will just create our workspace and it will not create any application. So once we have created our workspace, we need to go inside that folder, and then in order to create a new application, we will give the command ng generate application and name of the application. So in my case, I have given my application name as header app, and we will press enter and this will create a new Angular application for us. So once we have generated all the applications, I have opened my workspace inside Visual Studio Code, and here you can see under this project folder, all the generated applications are listed here. So we will now go ahead and check out angular.json file. So here you can see all the project level configuration settings can be found under this key projects. So here we have our header app and all the application level configuration settings can be found inside that. So here one thing to notice, like if you come to the very end of this file, so here you will find this default project. So whatever project is mentioned over here, so that will be treated as our default application. So like if you give the command like ng build or ng serve, so this project will be executed. So in our case, I have mentioned here as header app. So whenever I will give the command ng build or ng serve, my header app application will be served out to the browser. So before we start building our application, we need to first add Angular elements to our project or to our workspace. So for that, we will give the following command ng add @angular/elements. So this will add the required packages for building web components using Angular elements. We will now start building our web components. So we will go to our project folder and select our application header app. So we will start by first doing the change in index.html. So instead of saying root app, we will call it as header app. So this will be the tag which we will be placing in our HTML. Then we will go to our main.ts. So here we will say ng-zone and we will say as no operation. So ng-zone always creates some unexpected results with Angular elements. So it's always advisable to stop them. So for change detection strategy, we will be using on push. So that I will show you in a moment. Then we will go to our app module.ts file. So here we need to inject injector from core, and we also need create custom element from our Angular elements. Then we have to remove all the components specified in our bootstrap array Instead, we will create one entry component array and we can specify our components here. Then we will create the instance of the injector and we will have one function ng do bootstrap. So here we will say header app is equal to create custom element and we will pass our component with the injector, and then we will say custom element dot define, and this is the tag which we have already specified with the header app which we have created in our line 27. Then we will go to our app component.ts file. So here we just need to include view encapsulation, and we should always specify view encapsulation as shadow DOM because it's a web component. So we want to isolate our web component. Then in our app component.html, we will just place our HTML, all the HTML which was displayed in the header section. And in the CSS, we will specify all our CSS which is used by our header application. By following the same steps, I have completed building the other Angular application. Now the time has come to compile them as web components. So in order to do that, we will be using a tool which is known as NGX Build Plus. But before that, we first need to open our angular.json file and we have to specify our application name as default project on which we want to install that tool. So this is that tool and its name is NGX Build Plus. So we have to give the following three commands. So we will go to our command prompt and make sure we are at the we are inside our workspace. And the first command we are going to give is add add ngx build plus. So this will add this tool onto our app and it will do some changes in the package.json file. After that, we have to give this command, that is ng generate ngx build plus colon wc hyphen polyfill. So this will add all the required polyfills which are required by our web components. After that, we need to give this command ng generate ngx build plus colon external. So this will create some npm scripts by which we can compile our application into web components. So once we are done running all these three commands, we will see what changes has been done by this tool to our project. So we will go to Visual Studio Code and let's check package.json file. So here we can see that this tool has added this polyfill and it has also added this npm script. And also inside our application, this tool has created this file which is known as webpack.external.js. So this tool takes that file as an input during our ng build process and it gives output as a single bundle. So I have run the same command one by one in all the projects and generated the scripts. Before you do, make sure you change the name of the project in your angular.json before you run all those three commands. We will now go ahead and use this script to build our application. So we can copy this command from here and we will go to our command prompt and here we will give the command npm run and press enter. So this has built our project. Please keep in mind this activity takes some time to build. We will now see what we get after building this project. So we will go to our workspace and this will create a dist folder, and inside that we will have our application folder. So here you can see we get all these files. So we have one index.html and then we have all this main-es5 file, and main-es 2015, and then we have some polyfills, and we have this script file. So all our Angular code and polyfills are bundled in this script file, and our Angular code is inside this main file. So Angular creates two bundles, one for older browser and one for latest browser. So generally all latest browser uses this main ES 2015 file, and the size of our current Angular application is just 87 kilobyte. We can also run this index.html to see our application in action. So you can see this is the output of our application. Till this point, everything looks okay. But if you see the disk folder, we still have one problem. There are too many files. So for our web components, we should be having a single JavaScript file. So the next step, we will concatenate all those files and create a single bundle. We will start by creating a file in the root of our workspace, and we will call this file as build elements.js. In the interest of time, I am pasting the already written code, and we can walk through it line by line. First, we need to import two node modules, that is fs-extra and concat. In our build function, we need to check if the project name is specified. If not, then we will display the message as project name is required. After that, we will build two bundles, that is ES 2015 for latest browsers and ES5 bundles. For bundle creation, we will concatenate all the appropriate files together and create an element folder and save our generated bundle as project name followed by -elements -es2015.js or project name -elements -es5.js. At last, we will print the message done generating bundles for the provided project. After this, we have to incorporate this script into our build script. So for that, we will go to our package.json file, and here I have already incorporated it. So for that, we have to add one more flag, that is output hashing none, and then we have to call our build element.js script followed by the project name. So this project name will go as an argument to our build scripts. Before we can run our updated build script, we first need to install our node modules. So for that, we will go to our command prompt and give this command npm install fs extra, and then we have to save it. Once this get installed, we have to install another package, that is concat. So we will say npm I concat, and for this also we will say save dev and press enter. We can now run our updated build scripts after we have installed all the required node modules. So let's copy this first command, and we will go to our command prompt and we will run it by giving the command npm run, and we will paste this and we will hit enter. Once the build gets successful, we can now go to our test folder and see what we have got. So inside this folder, we will go to our header app, and here you can see we have got all the files. So we have turned off the hashing, so that's why no hash has been attached to this file names. And if you can see, this build has now created one folder elements. So if you go inside, so here we will see two files. One is ES5 and another is ES 2015. So actually these two files contains all the concatenated version of all the scripts which we have seen here. In the same way, I have generated the build of all our other applications. And now using all these micro frontends, let's build our web application. For this demo, I'm using IS server, but you can use any server of your choice which can serve static contents. So inside our www root folder, let's create one demo application. So we will create one folder here and we will call it as mf demo. Inside this folder, we will create our index.html. So I personally believe that our web application should be as lightweight as possible. So I'm not using any front-end framework for creating a shell or container application which will host our micro frontends. So now let's open this folder in our editor and create our index.html file. So here I have created our index.html, which will also serve as a container screen which will host all our micro frontends. And I also have created one apps folder where I have placed all the web components which we have generated sometime before in the past. So let's go inside one of our applications. So here this is our footer app. In the same way, this is our main app. Now I will show you the contents of this index.html. So here if you see our index.html, it's a very simple file. It has nothing fancy in it. So here if you see in the main part, I have placed the placeholders where our various apps will go. And if you go to the CSS file, so here we have few lines of CSS which is used to style this web page. So as of now, if I run this on the browser, we don't see any exciting results because we haven't included anything as of now. So now we will go ahead and integrate all our web components or micro frontends and see how our web page looks. So here I have incorporated all the micro frontends at their respective locations, and now we will go to our browser and see how it looks. So this is our complete application, but this time it is built using web components. So let's inspect it and see how it looks. So here you can see this is our header app, and we can see the contents of all these web components inside the shadow DOM. In the same way, here we can see this is our footer app, and same we can see it here. So till now everything looks nice, but there is still one observation. So if you go to our network tab, so here we can see, so all our applications are loading their own copy of Angular. So this can be optimized and addressed if all the teams are using the same version of Angular. Let me show you how we can do it. So this is the output of our dist folder which gets generated when we build our web components. So here we can see we have some bunch of polyfills files and scripts, and inside this scripts.js we have all our Angular code, and all our application code lives inside this main.es file. So in order to optimize it, what we can do is, so what I have done is I have placed all the files which are common to all the applications onto the root of our apps folder. So like all this polyfill files and script.js stays here, and all the main JS of all that particular application is placed inside that. So for footer app, here is its main.es file, and in the same way this is for header, and same thing I have done for all the other applications. Now in our index.html, so here I have commented this single bundle, and if you can see all the common files, I'm trying to fetch them from our apps folder, and the main.es file of that application we are calling from that folder. Here one thing to keep in mind is the order of the scripts. So if we do not follow the order of scripts as shown here, we will get an error. So this is something important that we have to keep in mind. So I have done these changes for all the applications, and now we can run our application. So once we run our application, so this is what we get. So if you see, all the common files get loaded only once, and the main.es file of all the application only gets downloaded to the browser. So this is one way we can optimize our micro frontends and improve the performance of our web application. Till now, we have seen that multiple micro frontends can exist on a single page, but as of now, all apps works in silos and there is no communication between host and micro apps or even between two different micro apps. We will now address this and see how this can be achieved. For example, we want to pass a auth token from our host app to our micro app. So to implement that, we will go to our Visual Studio Code and in angular.json file, make sure we have selected a project main app. Then in our index.html, we will pass auth token. So here I am saying auth-token equals to some auth token ID. So it may be any data which can be passed. And in our app component.html, I am just displaying that auth token onto the page. Inside our app component.ts file, so here we need to import input and we have to simply say @input and we have to access that data which is passed as an input to our app. We will now go to our command prompt and give the command ngserve. So once this gets built, we can go to our browser and here we can see the output of our application. So here you can see auth token is displayed in red. So we can go to our source code and make some changes. So if we say 1, 2, 3, 4 and save it, and again if we come to our browser and reload our application, so we can see the updated data. We can now build this into web components and integrate with our existing application and see how it looks. So here I have replaced my main app -elements -es 2015.js file with the newly built file, and in my main app tag I have introduced this auth token and I am passing this dummy data which is some app session ID, and we can see the output in the browser. So this is what we get. So here you can see how we can easily pass the data from our host application to our micro frontends. In this example, we have seen how our host application can pass some data to our micro frontends. But there may be time when a micro frontend needs to pass data to some other micro frontend application. So there may be times when a different micro frontend app needs to listen and respond to the event raised by the different micro frontend app. So we will now go ahead and see how we can achieve this. So to start with, in our sub app, we will create one button and on its click event, we will call this function c underscore change head. And we will go to our ts file. So here, this is the body of our c underscore change head function. So here we are creating a data object which is having a action as a key, and we are passing this head was change. Then we will say const event equals to new custom event, and we will name this event as c underscore sub app, and in its detail key we will pass this data object, and then we will say window.dispatch event, which is this event. In our main app, we need to listen to this events. So for that, we need to import change detector ref, change detection strategy, and on destroy from our Angular core. And then we have to say change detection. So we have to use the strategy change detection strategy on push. And in the constructor, we have to create the instance of our change detector ref. And on ng on init, we have to say window.add event listener ce underscore subapp. So this was the event which was passed from our subapp, and this dot custom event listener function dot bind this. So here we are binding the passed event, and the next argument is the true. So this is the function body of our custom event listener function. So here we will pass the argument as event, and here we will say this dot heading equals to event dot detail dot action. And since we are using the change detection strategy as on push, so here we have to say this dot cd dot detect changes. And on ng on destroy, we will say window dot remove listener c underscore subapp, and we will call this custom event listener function as its second argument and true as its third argument. So here I have already incorporated the latest script file after building both the application, that is main app and the sub app. We will now go to the browser and see the output. So here we can see in our sub app, we can see one button, change heading. So on clicking this button, we can see the heading was changed on our main app. So here you can see using custom events, we can easily communicate between two micro frontends. Till now we have seen is a single micro frontend apps which contains only one screen or page. But this is not always the case. Micro frontends apps may contain number of screens or pages whose routes will be displayed onto the address bar. So the browser history also needs to be taken care programmatically so that user experience remains seamless. We will now address this. So to implement this, we will use our side app application. So here we will enable this read more link, and on clicking this link, we would like to show the details of this news. So for that, we will be introducing two components and we will bind them with the help of a router. We will go to our VS Code and in angular.json file, make sure that side app is our default project. Then let's see our app.module.ts file. So here we have introduced two new components, that is home and details. So in our app routing.module.ts, we will set up the routes and we will include this file in our app.module.ts file, and we will just place this router outlet inside our app.component.html file because all the screens will be displayed from our home or details components. And in our app.component.ts file, we will import a router, and on ng on init, we will programmatically send the user to our home screen. So in order to distinguish the routes, we are appending the application name before the routes so that the path among the various application can be easily distinguished. We can now have a quickly look to our components, that is home and details. So if you go to our home component, so if you go to our home.component.html file, so here we can see we just have some hard-coded HTML with a link to our details page. And if you go to its component file, you will not find anything here. And in the same way, if you go to our details component, so in the HTML page, you will just see some hard-coded HTML for the details with a link to the home page. And if you go to its component.ts file, you will not find anything here. One thing to mention here, if you remember in our main.ts file, we have suppress nzone by saying nzone equals to no operation. So we can go to our polyfills.ts file and we can comment this line because since we are not using nzone, we don't need to include this in our bundle. So once we will build our application, our bundle size will become smaller. After doing all these changes, we can go to our command prompt and we can build our application. Once this gets built, we can go to our file explorer and check the files. So if you see, the earlier file size was 1258 KB and the newly built file is just 1222 KB once we have removed our nzone.js files. We will now replace our older file with the new one and run our application. So this is the output we get once we reload our application. So here you can see this read more link has now become enabled, and when we click on this, we can see our detail screen. And also notice the URL also changes on our address bar. So if we click back, you can again see the URL changes here. Great. We will now explore how we can deal with the micro apps having multiple screens, load macro frontends app dynamically, and deal with the browser history. So for that, I have created this dummy bank application and made its view statements and transfers section as a macro frontends. We will now go to our Visual Studio Code and explore the source code. So here inside our Visual Studio Code, I have generated two applications, statement app and transfer app. So let's go inside our statement app. So inside our app folder, let's go to our app module.ts file. So here you can see I have generated two components, view statement and detail statement. And its routing has been configured inside our app routing.module.ts file. Now let's see what's inside our detail statement screen. So in the component.html file, we just have some piece of static HTML. And if we go to our component.ts file, we have nothing except just one function stat view, which actually redirects the user to our view screen. In the same way, in the view statement, if you go to our component.html file, here also we will find some piece of static HTML code. And if you go to our component.ts file, so here also we have one function which actually redirects the user to the detail screen. Same thing we will find in our transfer app. So here also if you go to our app module.ts file, so here also we can find two components, that is fund transfer and add pay. And if you go inside those components, so in the component.html file, we will just have some static piece of HTML code. And in the same way in the component.ts file, we have nothing except one function funds, which actually redirect the user to the fund screen. And in the same way, if you go to the fund transfer screen, so here also in the HTML, we have some piece of static HTML. And in the component.ts file, we just have a small function pay, which redirects user to the pay screen. After this, I have built both the application as per the process I have already explained you earlier. So here I have created my demo application whose name is bank demo, and I have placed both the application inside this apps folder. So here in the statement app, I have kept both the generated files here, and the same goes for the transfer app. Now let's explore the files of this bank demo app. So this is the index.html file. So here we are just including styles, and then we have one loader.js. And in the HTML section, we just have the header, we have some few links, and this is our content area where we are going to load our micro frontends app dynamically. And this is the styles.css for this application. So all the CSS has been mentioned here. And the next file is loader.js file. So all the magic happens here. Now let's explore our loader.js file line by line. So on line 1, I have declared an array loaded app, which keeps the track of all the loaded micro frontends. Function load micro app except one argument, app name. I have declared two variables, micro apps and micro folder. On line number 8, I am grabbing the element with the class content where I am going to load all my micro frontends. I set the value of micro app and micro folder variables based upon the past app name. On line number 25, I look for the app in the loaded app array. If the micro app is not found, then I create a DOM element with the micro app name and append it to the div whose class is content. So for statement, the HTML tag will be statement-app, and in the same way for transfer, it will be transfer-app. Then on line number 33, I am creating a script tag and then checking if browser supports ES 2015 or ES6. So in my try block, I am declaring ES6 map. If it supports ES6, then I am loading app name element es 2015.js file from the app folder. Else I am loading element es5.js file and append the same to the DOM element. And on line 45, I am pushing the app name to the loaded app array. The function getAppName on line 51 is used to get the micro frontend name by reading the URL from the address bar. Here I am splitting the URL from hash character and finding the app name by reading the second argument of the URL ARR array. If URL ARR array is less than 2, then I am returning blank or null. Function load homepage on line 60 just appends some static HTML to the content area. Window on hash change and on load either calls load micro app or load homepage function based upon the value written by the set app name function. After this, now let's see this in action. So here I am at my bank's demo application. If you see on the right hand side, you will notice only three files gets downloaded. That is index.html, styles.css and loader.js. The content between the header and the footer section is displayed by our load homepage function, as our getApp function returns null when there is no hash on the URL. Now, by clicking on the view statements, you can see statement application appears and statement app-elements-es2015.js file gets downloaded dynamically. We can go from one screen to another and notice how the URL changes. Now again, if we click on the transfers, we can see the transfer applications appears and transfer app-elements-es2015.js files also get downloaded dynamically. Now if we again go and click on our view statements link, our statements application appears, but you might have noticed the file is not getting downloaded again by the browser because this file is already cached by the browser. By clicking the browser back button, you might have noticed the history is maintained and the application automatically appears based upon the URLs which is displayed on the address bar. So if we again click back, you might have seen that statement details screen appears and the state of the application is even preserved if we are trying to reload our application. So you might have noticed when our application reloads, it automatically pulls our statement app and displays the same on the screen. So this is how we can load micro frontends dynamically and also preserve the browser history. Till now we have seen that micro frontends can be created only using Angular elements, but we can also have our regular Angular apps behave as micro frontends. So for that, in my Visual Studio Code, I have generated two applications, Demo app and Temp app. So Temp app I have generated using Angular CLI, and here you can see this is the default Angular project which is generated by the CLI. In the same way, in the Demo app, I have just changed the content of index.html in order to distinguish between two Angular apps. After this, I have built both this application and you can see the output here. So this is our temp app and this is our demo app. We will now try to run both this application on a single page. So for that, inside my webroot folder, I have created another project and I am naming it as loadng. So inside that, you will see I have created one folder apps, and here I have put the build output of both the projects. So this is demo app and this is the temp app. Now let's see the details of index.html page. So this is my index.html. So here I'm trying to incorporate both my Angular apps. Let's run this file on the browser and see the output. So this is what we get. So here you can see only one of our Angular apps runs. So if you see on the inspector, our app demo application runs and all the files are there. And if you see below, our app root, which is our temp app application, that is not executing. And if you go to the network tab, you might have noticed all the files are downloaded to the browser. So here you can see all the files for demo apps got downloaded, and same is the case for temp app. So the reason for the same lies behind the fact how Angular builds our application. So if we go to our applications, the build application, and if we go inside our demo app, and if we try to open our main.js file, so here you can see Angular Webpack bundles everything inside this namespace, which is known as Webpack JSONP. And in the same way, if you go to our temp app and try to see the details of this main.js file, here also this is the same thing. So that's the reason only one application can be run on the browser at a time. So how to deal with this problem? NGX Build Plus again comes to the rescue. So please install NGX Build Plus on both the projects as per the process I have described earlier. And then in your Visual Studio Code, we will create one file on our root of our workspace, and we will call that file as webpack.extra.js. And this file contains only few lines. So here we will say module.export and then output, and then here we can change the namespace of our JSONP function. So here for our demo app, I am saying that instead of using JSONP function, rename it to my demo app. After this, we will go to our command prompt and we'll give the following build command. So here we will say ng build prod extra webpack config, and here we will specify our webpack.extra.js file and we will hit enter. So once this get built, we will use this bundle and see what is the output. Please keep in mind this activity takes some time to build. I have replaced the previous file with the latest build, and let's see the output on the browser. So here if we come to the browser, so we can see both our Angular app works fine. So this is our demo app, and below we can see our temp app. Let's compare the files. So this is our main.js file of our temp app. So here you can still see window.webpack JSONP, and if you go to our demo app, so here you can see we have changed the namespace, and now it appears as window.myDemoApp. We can even load our application dynamically, but for that we have to do some changes. So first of all, I have removed my demo app, and instead of that I have placed one container div whose ID is contents. And then I have also included one script file, that is loader.js. Now let's see the details of this file. So inside that we have one function load app, and in this function we are trying to get the index.html of our demo app, and we are loading that HTML inside our content div. And next we are grabbing all the scripts which are inside that HTML file and loading the same on the browser. We also have to do some changes in the index.html of our demo app. So here we have to append the complete path, that is apps/demo app, in all our files. So once we do this, let's see this in action in the browser. So here in the browser, you can now see one button, load app, and on clicking this button, we can see our demo app loads dynamically onto the browser. So this brings ends to this video tutorial. I hope you might have enjoyed watching it. Please do let me know your comments, critiques, and suggestions in the comments below. That will help me to improve my videos in future. I also request you to please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.